Everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So today I got to meet Mike here in his Subaru. Mike, welcome to the channel.
Thanks for having me.
Why the Subaru Outback? What led you into that? What led you to this point right now?
Probably started in a Forester. You get the double mattress and you just stick the seats down, then you stick the double mattress in the back. This year I met someone who did van life full time.
Okay.
And she looked at my double mattress in the back and she's like, hey dude, you could just build this out, right? I hadn't really at that point fully focused myself that van life is for me. And then all of a sudden I met someone else that had built out their Outback. I guess she had a frame build and then you could slide out the drawers. At some point I just decided to just jump into that as maybe a practice run in van life.
How long ago was that?
I built this out in July.
In July.
I guess it's December now.
How long do you plan on going out for this stint? Because are you full-time?
This is quasi full-time. So in other words, I sleep in this every night. I plan to do it that way.
You're down here in Baja. Are you working right now? How do you afford this lifestyle?
Last year I did this working from the beach and I had my full-time job. And that was my test run to know that it was possible.
Okay.
And obviously this year we got the big upgrade with Starlink.
It's huge, yeah, it's such a big thing. For all the people out there working on the road, the digital nomads, things like that, this opens up a lot more real estate for us to go visit. What are your plans after this? Are you gonna stay in the Subaru or are you gonna go on to something else? What's your thoughts?
This right now is just precursor to van.
Okay.
But I think it's you have to just attend YouTube University and just, make your hobby watching YouTube videos about, it's framing the van, where to source the supplies from, what model of van to get.
Yeah, so much information out there. So being on the road, I know it's still a short time, but what's been your favorite part?
Honestly, I used to feel like it was a cliche thing to spend time with yourself. And it's not to say that I prefer that, but I don't, and I did not mind as much, those long 7-hour days of driving, because I think it was 30 total to get here.
Yeah.
Listening to audiobooks, cranking the music. I'd prefer to meet people when I travel before going on a side adventure, which it's all about the side adventure.
That's true.
But an example would be on my way out of town, it was the last stop. I'm okay, I'll just pull in and get some breakfast. And this couple has sat down with their kid and she's like, hey dude, where are you from? And she saw my Colorado license plate and got to talking, and I didn't know that it was in my full interest to meet people that are into, they said they were with a friend that was running a glamping site. And I was like, oh, I'd love to meet them and network, because I'm trying to build the haven for people doing remote work.
Yeah.
Went over, talked to them. It turned out they needed a website at that moment. So I hung out. I basically traded them a free stay for a website. They're BajaGlampingMexico.com.
Cool.
And if you're trying to make the drive down, you could just book with them. And
oh, that's awesome. And they have a new website, turns out, so.
It took a day to build, man.
That's perfect. That's great. But I mean, you're finding those connections and you're building that community on the road, and that's huge.
It's a much more fulfilling, so my background is corporate software engineering. And I kind of shifted, and after a while, it lost its component of being fulfilling. I don't know if I'm gonna just step away totally from the tech skill set, but at the very least, I can do the tech for people doing cool shit.
Yes, that is awesome. That's huge.
And then and already down here, simple as a meta surf instructor, I'm like, hey dude, you need a website in Spanish?
Yeah.
And he's like, and it's not even for money. It's he'll trade me surf lessons, which I don't even care about that.
Yeah.
But
you're just helping other people, essentially. You are building part of a community on your own.
And I could have done it back home, but I just like the vibe of people when you travel.
Do you mind if we go do a quick tour of your rig?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's go.
Yeah, so I think the main intention coming down here was just to continue my surfing habit. That you have to make a decision when you go on a longer term adventure. What your packing list is probably the most important.
And you made enough room in your car, your setup, to have a surfboard in there.
I can fully put the surfboard in. I sleep in it with the surfboard.
Yeah,
I had to make a sacrifice that you could do a Subaru Outback and definitely sleep 2 people. But I made a sacrifice. I don't have my dog with me, but part of my build accounts for room for my doggy. Some people build out a Subaru Outback and they'll have only half here. This goes fully in to where this pillow is at. I could have built even further back toward the back seats, but the way that I mostly am sleeping is, you know, either diagonal, and that's again due to the choice of not having the dog. He has kind of a bench in front of the bed here, but otherwise it's fully possible to take a Subaru Outback, build it to the seats, and you could comfortably sleep.
Certainly don't have very much headroom in there.
No, I joke and I say it's like a bivy sack.
Yeah.
I get REM sleep every night, and that's all that matters. If I was to redo this build, I would have taken, and it is always a game of inches with these things. There's the bed frame here that's holding everything up.
Okay.
And I would have taken maybe an inch or two off of that, which I totally could have done, but at the point that I had finished it, I thought, this is fine, it will work.
What are you using for a bed? So is it just regular foam?
That much of foam.
Okay.
So with the frame, the particular approach I used was inspiration from IKEA furniture.
Perfect.
So the bed frame is, and we can kind of take a look at it. So the bed frame itself is, I've basically gotten some thicker pieces, and I have in total in the van, everything is IKEA style, so I don't have to use any power tools to fully disassemble this. And then on top here, I have two planks that run across. So you can kind of see, this is actually meant for a computer. There's a whole like platform of pillows underneath.
What do you do for going to the bathroom and hygiene?
So with this type of build, you're limited. You're either left digging a cat hole, or in the case of how I do it, I don't really look at this as a full time. So I try to always anchor it to some kind of brick and mortar. So that could just mean that I'm going to a coffee shop and being a patron during the day. It could be that you're, you know, using a gym membership for a shower. So you can see up top, I have Starlink. So from this view, we can see the Starlink is set up. Didn't want to mod the car itself. So what I did was I cut a big hole in the car box, which is being covered with this rubber. That way, if rainwater happens, there's kind of a waterproof adhesive seal around the hole. It kind of inhibits like how much I can lift this up, but all I do is I reach in, clip, pull out the plug.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, and then you can see, and we're done. So this is a big hunk of wood that I've kind of built a frame. I had to make sure, because the Starlink adjusts and orients, I had to get it to the right height, which is why you see so many kind of like log cabin stacks of wood.
Looks like Jenga.
Jenga, yeah. But that just makes sure that if the Starlink readjusts to find satellite, it's not gonna you know, interact with the car box in a bad way. The other big question people ask me, I have driven with this. I know this base is firmly there, and I have driven at about 90 miles an hour. But my concern is that it's actually this piece on the Starlink as it clips into the base. I'm not totally sure if that's like secure. So if you catch some bad air resistance just because the satellite positions incorrectly, you're going fast, it's a windy day. Like, I don't know the security of if that Starlink flies off, you just don't want to be in that situation. I just pop it through the top there, kind of reasonably make sure it's in place. I get the wire, make sure the wires align, push that in, and then we clip. And sometimes, there we go. Just go through the wiring, you can see this wire kind of snakes out from the car box. But that wire from Starlink then goes down to the jackery right here. A jackery tends to be a little bit more portable, and you can see the wires from there that run to the back. Some of those wires run right here, you know, a surge protector for all the pluggables. And in the back here, if I'm like setting up for the day to work, I would take this solar panel out. So another tip, in a Subaru, you take the wheel well. There's like you get an extra 2 inches of space, basically. You can see right here, I have my my WeatherTech panels, but I take the wheel well out and I get an extra 2 inches of space. I have a piece of plywood on that.
What do you have there?
It's 240 watts.
240 watts, okay. And so you have the Jackery 1000, or the Explorer 1000?
It's the 1000, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And that does you well with all your stuff?
Really just a computer and a Starlink. The solar will probably draw in on a 240 watt panel. The only kind of thing I would note about this is it's bulky, it's hard to set up, but that's pulling in about 115 to 120 watts into the Jackery, and then outputted. The Starlink runs about 45 to 60, and then a MacBook runs about maybe 55 to 75 at any given time. So if you do the math on it, you're only getting a really slow drain on that battery. Go for 3 days for sure,
yeah.
And so long as you're running solar intermittently.
You'd mentioned something earlier about security.
But yeah, you can see in particular with the Jackery, I have a rope lock going through it. And pretty much my strategy is that the rope lock is then hooked into the framing, so the wood. Friends told me, like, you know, if someone wants to get in, they'll get in. But even if they do get in, like, they'd have to show up with power tools. They wouldn't have a fun day. So if we want to come around to this side, whenever you travel, hotel room or an Airbnb, first thing you'll see is a safe. So right here, that's a safe. I have it a little bit concealed. Right there is the safe. So it's easy access if I'm driving. Pretty easy to just pop that thing open. But nice. Same concept, very much bolted into the frame. Very much would be a bad day for someone. They're trying to get into it.
Yeah, I've met other people with those safes, and I always think those are really, really good ideas for your laptop, any kind of sensitive electric stuff, your passport, things like that. How do you eat and how do you sustain yourself?
So that is, again, delegating to some kind of brick and mortar. I do have a grill up top in the box, in the car box, that I haven't pulled out yet, but I made that decision to at least bring a grill. I have kind of a foldable fridge sack, ice pack.
Okay.
So like if I wanted to, I could just like get some fish, put some ice in it for the day, bring the grill with the propane to the beach and like do a setup that way.
So you've been going out to eat a lot down here, I'm assuming?
No, I've been cooking because I have that hostel that I stay at. So I anchor myself to a place with a kitchen. They let me just park on site. I don't know. In fact, it was the case that I had originally booked a dorm room there. But as soon as I walked in the first day, I immediately thought I'm gonna get a better night's sleep in my car. Big upgrade I made was WeatherTech. Basically, you get out of it a sunshade, but you can see on the back window here, it's like blackout curtains.
Oh.
So that was a huge upgrade to be able to get a good night's sleep, because normally, like if you're camping, even if you're car camping, even if you have tinted windows, you're gonna get up with the sunrise. But with this kind of a setup, you know, you're gonna get an extra hour or two of sleep. You're gonna get a little bit of insulation from the heat, since on the outside they are that kind of that silvery material. So my friend from Van Life told me is like, don't just like haphazardly like pack things in your car. Everything has a specific place. Right here, you know, above the safe, I have a little bit of storage. Like this is my backpacking, like adventure backpack. Every backpack I have has a specific purpose. Even if it's just for the memory of like this backpack that looks like this is like, you know, my GoPro and filming backpack. One backpack is like my extra electronics and plugs. Down here is like my kitchen supplies area. Like another philosophy I have with any kind of like mobile living is always leave extra space. Also, I really am a strong believer that if you packed your car to the gills, in order to move things around, you'd have to take stuff physically out of the car every time. And you kind of want to avoid having to do that. People ask me about this kind of filmy stuff. Sometimes, especially depending on what weather you're in, you know, it's a balance between having the blackout curtains or not, but what this allows for is for you to roll down the windows and not get a bunch of bugs flying in.
So it's a sock for your window, basically.
It's a sock for your window, yeah.
Okay. That works really well.
And that's something people ask me about quite a bit.
Mike, thank you so much for giving us a tour of your awesome rig. If people wanted to follow your adventures or get a hold of you somehow, what would be the best way for us to do that, to follow what you're doing?
Yep, so for anyone that's remote freelancing, I've been building a CRM product or just honestly sharing technical tips through live coding. You can find me on YouTube at Mike Witt, W-H-I-T, so like white but without the E. And then on Instagram, I use the G in between Mike and Witt, so it's Mike G Witt, W-H-I-T. And yeah, just putting together products to help remote freelancers quit their jobs and kind of do what I'm doing.
So folks out there, what was your favorite part of his setup? I thought the simplicity of it was exceptional, and I also liked how you actually mounted your Starlink, because that's a problem for a lot of people, is where to put it, because if it's on the ground, it can get run over. So folks, I hope that you got something out of this video today. If you did, give us a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, we'll see you guys down the road. Bye guys.